All right, guys, on the podcast today, we are going to talk about what you are living right now. What is going on in your life today, whatever it is what you manifested to be so yesterday. And by yesterday, I mean in your past. And what you want for tomorrow, you can manifest today. Let's get into it. So, whether you are aware of it or not, the reality that you are living in and I am living in today, we manifested that reality long ago, yesterday, back in our history. And today on the podcast, we're going to get into how to manifest the life you want tomorrow in your future. Let's get right into it. Do me a favor, guys, if you haven't already done it, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. Click the button down there, smash it for me, hit that like button. If this helps you later on with this content, leave me a comment and let me know because it helps me to know how to design content that will help you guys on your manifestation journey. Let me share a personal story with you. We're going to talk about two things today: the life you're living now and the life you want to live next. Because the life you're living now is the life you manifested yesterday in your past, in your history. How does all that work? A few years ago, I was working in a factory and I was sick of that. A series of events had led to that in my life. I used to be an evangelical pastor. I'd moved to Wisconsin to start a church. We'd done that several years, and along the way, I'd ended up working in this factory to make ends meet. Was not my favorite job, needless to say. I'm stuck in this dank, no light environment. Have you ever seen Joe versus the volcano? That was my life, except on the factory floor, just dim, blinking fluorescent lighting. I was kind of miserable, so I spent about a year of my time there in the factory working my way in to the job I really wanted, and it was in the training arm on the corporate side of the factory. That was my background. That's really what my degree kind of correlated with. And I began to set my intention. At that time, I didn't even know what setting your intention was. I was just doing it from my heart. And I said, I want a job, one, that utilizes my gifts. I want a job, two, that I can be passionate about, enjoy coming to day after day. And three, that gets me out of this factory environment that I really do not like at all. A big part of what the Hicks, Abraham through Esther Hicks, shares in manifestation is understanding what you do not want will lead you to what you do want. Well, I knew I didn't want that factory life anymore. Well, about a year of working towards that and working with this team, and the opportunity in that role came available, and I just knew this is it. I have gotten the life of my dreams. I went in, did a day long interview, and guess what happened? I didn't get the job. I was so devastated. I just had done everything right, and it seemed like I was the perfect fit, and I connected with the team. And for whatever reason, at the time, I didn't know. Now I know it was God, the universe, whatever you want to call that cosmic force, had something better in mind for me. I was so devastated that I went back to my factory job, and honestly, in my heart, I just gave up. A big part of manifestation is surrender. When we've set our intention and we come up with that life we want, there comes a time where we just have to surrender. And as they say, let go and let God, let the universe, whatever it is you believe there, take control and do God's thing or the universe's thing that force can only do. And I did that. I just said, I'm going to be a factory worker all my life. And I just kind of gave in. It wasn't even 2 months, and a series of synchronicities happened in my life that's too long to go into here. But I met a guy in a coffee shop, and it led to the sales position I'm in now. And guess what? When I got in that sales role, it was everything I had set my desires on that I thought I wanted back in the factory corporate side of things, but so much more. It was a job that fit my passions. It was a role that let me use my gifts every day. It got me out of the factory. It paid me better money. All of these things that I had set my intention on came to pass in my life. And now I don't dread my job. I don't go in hating it. Do you know something I learned along the way? Whatever you set your intention on, whether you mean to or you don't mean to, you're going to make that reality come about pretty soon at some point in your life. And it did that very thing for me. If I had it to do over, I would have set my intention on a lot more money because at the time I didn't care about money. I just wanted out of that role. and I could have made a lot better a lot quicker. Was I got into the role and did that for a couple of years, my intention began to transform to something new. And it's going to do this throughout your life. You're going to want new things. You're going to want to work in new ways and help people in new venues. And all of that grew in me. So what happened is not only now did I want to do this job every day, I wanted to be the top guy, not just for bragging rights, but just for personal victory. I wanted that. I wanted to make better money. I wanted to get better at sales. And guess what? Still didn't know what I was doing, still didn't know anything about manifestation. All of it has happened. We had a guy that has been in sales for years that was my best friend at the dealership for a long time. And he decided to move on. He was always our top dog. And he and I would go back and forth vying for this position. And he was always better than me. He could sell better than me, could sell more products and all those kind of things. And eventually he moved on to another dealership. And it was kind of a devastating time, another letting go for me because he was my big buddy. And although he beat me in sales, we were very tight. And as he left and moved into a new area, guess what? I became the top dog. He had helped me hone my skills. I got better at sales. I started selling a lot more, lots more products and doing a lot better financially. All of that stuff happened just like I said. It still didn't know what I was doing when it comes to manifestation. Well, what I learned along the way as I began to read and study people like the Hicks and like Wayne Dyer and Joe Dispenza and David Bayer and so many of these folks that really understand these concepts, as I began getting that in my heart, I started to understand for the first time what we set our intention on and what we pay attention to becomes our reality. And it's just a matter of timing in the universe for that to happen. So that's what happened in my now. That's kind of how I have manifested myself and my source. God has led me into the place that I'm at now. It's through unintentionally setting my intention on what it is I wanted in my life, and it's all come to pass. So nowadays, as I look at the second concept we're going to look at today, what's next in life, I'm very careful about what I set my intention and place my attention on. I'm very careful about that because I know it's going to come to pass in my life. Now, my next goal, my next step is doing just what I'm doing with you today, is coaching folks in how to get a hold of these concepts like I've gotten a hold of in my own life because it's changed everything for me. And I believe it can change everything for you. And I have some very specific intentions set on how I want to do that and what I want to see happen. And I won't go into all of that today, but let me just share one thing with you. The other day, I'd heard a concept from Bob Proctor. He's a finance guy that's passed away, but he was into the manifestation side of finance and understanding it all starts in our thoughts, and thoughts become things, and we become what we believe. Proctor taught all that, and he was one of the first ones to help me get a hold of it. Was this is a Bob Proctor from an old series of tapes. It was back that far that he did, and he was talking about how he went in to the Prudential Life Insurance Company back at the time that they were the top dogs in insurance. So Bob goes in and he's talking to their executive guy, I think it was their CEO or CFO, about the training he could offer their people. And he said, I could have everyone in your company or anyone in your company that chooses to do so writing $5 million of insurance per year. And at that time, that was unheard of. It was ridiculous. They basically laughed at him. And as he stood up and they finally hired him to help out with the company and he talked to the company, he said this and he was almost laughed out of there. A guy afterwards came up and talked to him and said, Bob, do you realize what it is to write $5 million of insurance as an individual in this business? It's just never happened. And he said, great, you can be the first. And he said, we're in August. We're halfway through the year. Even if it could be done, it's too late to do it. And Proctor, the optimist of all optimists, said, great, you can do it in a shorter amount of time then. And do you know that guy that came and talked to him set his intention on that? And that year he was the first to break that $5 million barrier in the Prudential Insurance Company. He broke it because he began to believe it. And what we believe, we become. And as Proctor shared in this story, I was thinking back to an exercise I'd done just a few days before. I was journaling and I'd written down some very specific goals over the next year for my life. And one of those goals was to make a certain amount of money per month from doing what I'm doing now, coaching, and move myself out of my sales job and into this atmosphere full time. Well, when I wrote it down, I felt like this is a livable goal that will give me a good life if I earn this amount. And I put it in writing on paper. I dated it and I said, I'm going to look in a year from now and I'm going to be there. I said it is my intention. But the whole time I kind of had this feeling in the back of my mind that's not enough. You're setting too small of a dream. You're dreaming too small, Jim. But I wrote it down because it seemed possible within a year to me, rather than just kind of throwing it out to let the universe decide when and where and how. And I still believe all that. But needless to say, I wrote it down. And when I heard Proctor say that, something told me I can do 10 times that amount. And do you know what I did? I went back 2 days after I wrote this. I edited, I dated it again. I wrote it in my journal and I upped that amount for my monthly amount by 10. Now, that might sound ridiculous to you, but I have learned everything I've set my intention on throughout my life, when I think about it, has come to pass. That is the way this works. It's a real process. We work with real energy in our body, and we'll go into a whole nother podcast on that. But please understand, this stuff is real. This stuff works. Set your intention on what you want right now. Whatever you had set your intention on today, it's going to happen tomorrow. Not physically tomorrow, but in your future. Tomorrow down the road, it's coming in your life. So right now is the time to set your intention and set it specifically on what you really want. If you don't believe me, look back over the thoughts you've had in your life up to this point and where it's brought you. Your thinking have become your thoughts rather have become your things in your life. The way you think has turned into thoughts. What you've believed, you've become, and you're living the reality you manifested. Why not manifest a great reality tomorrow? Once again, if this has helped you, leave me a comment about how or what or where. Share it with somebody else. And please subscribe to the channel. Thank you for joining me week after week. Have a great week and go be great today.